Imagine for a second that alien explorers landed on Earth tomorrow. They park their spaceship, step out. Very quickly, they would come to a bizarre conclusion. They would look at our daily habits and assume that humans are not actually the dominant species on this planet. When it is freezing outside, we put tiny knitted sweaters on them so they do not get cold. We literally follow them around the park holding little plastic bags, just waiting to pick up their poop. To an alien, it looks like we are the pets. They would be completely confused, because hidden inside the DNA of every single goofy golden retriever, every shivering chihuahua in a designer purse, and every breathless pug on a living room couch, look closely at a modern dog begging for a piece of your pizza. A cold-blooded, highly intelligent pack hunter that survived multiple brutal ice ages, took down massive prehistoric beasts. So, how in the world did this happen? How did we go from huddling around a campfire, praying the glowing, and making them their own social media accounts with millions of followers? The true story of how wild wolves transformed into our beloved domestic dogs. It is a crazy story of survival, mutual benefit, genetic. It completely changes everything you thought you knew about human history and evolution. Because today we are going back over 30,000 years to uncover how the big bad wolf pulled off the ultimate evolutionary. Let us set the scene first. We have to travel back to the late Pleistocene epoch, roughly 30 to 40,000 years ago. Life for early humans was, to put it incredibly nicely, a complete and total living nightmare. You do not have grocery stores. You are freezing cold all the time. You are constantly on the verge of starvation. There were short-faced bears that were twice the size of a modern grizzly, running at terrifying speeds. There were saber-toothed cats with teeth the size of kitchen knives hiding in the tall grass. Humans were just slow, weak, hairless apes running around with sharp sticks. We were the underdogs of the Ice Age. Most direct competitor for survival was the gray wolf. We both lived in tight-knit family groups that we called tribes and they called packs. We both communicated with our families to coordinate attacks. And most importantly, we both wanted to eat the exact same meat. If there was a herd of giant reindeer in the valley, the humans wanted it, and the wolves wanted it. Because we were competing for the exact same limited resources in a brutal frozen wasteland, we were bitter, natural enemies. So, how did the ice finally break between two rival gangs competing for survival? For a very long time, scientists, historians, and movie directors believed in something called the hunter hypothesis. An ancient human hunter was out walking in the snowy woods, maybe looking for berries. He stumbled upon an abandoned, cute little wolf pup shivering in the cold. The human felt sorry for it, brought it back to the cave. Over time, the human taught the wolf to fetch sticks, guard the cave, and hunt alongside the tribe. It sounds like a really great plot for a touching animated movie, right? But modern evolutionary biologists and geneticists say this story is completely and totally wrong. In fact, it is biologically impossible. Why is it wrong? Wild animals are wild at a genetic level. Even today, if you take a pure wild wolf puppy from the forest and raise it in your comfortable house with all the love, expensive food, and toys in the world, it will not become a dog. The moment that wolf hits puberty, its wild, predatory instincts will kick in. It will destroy your furniture, it will bite your friends, it will try to establish dominance. And it certainly will not listen to a caveman trying to give it commands. Taming a wild species is not about behavior, it is about genetics. Puppy from the woods. How did this magical friendship actually begin? The crazy truth is, we did not choose the wolves. The wolves actually chose us. During the Ice Age, humans started becoming much better at hunting. We invented better spears, we mastered the use of fire, and we started taking down massive animals like mammoths and giant elk. Now, humans have small stomachs. We could not eat a whole mammoth in one day, and we obviously did not have refrigerators. So early humans left behind huge piles of animal bones, organs, and leftover meat rotting just outside their camps. It was basically an ancient, all-you-can-eat garbage dump. Now, most wild wolves were absolutely terrified of humans. Humans threw sharp spears, yelled loudly, and carried terrifying sticks of fire. A normal, tough, aggressive wolf would smell a human campfire and immediately run in the opposite direction.
Но природа любит разнообразие. В каждой волчьей стае разные характеры.
These less fearful, slightly lazier wolves realized something absolutely brilliant. A A true stroke of evolutionary genius. Risk getting kicked in the head by a 2-ton angry elk. It was the ultimate evolutionary cheat code. The friendlier, less aggressive wolves got free, easy food without having to risk their lives. Because they had more food and spent way less energy, they survived longer through the brutal Ice Age winters. Because they survived longer and were healthier, they had more puppies. And genetically, those puppies inherited that exact same less aggressive, garbage-eating gene from their parents. Over hundreds and thousands of generations, these camp-following, garbage-eating wolves became completely different from their wild, human-hating cousins in the deep woods. They started hanging closer and closer to the warm fires. They stopped seeing humans as enemies and started seeing them as giant, ugly chefs who provided free meals. They became the very first primitive dogs. And humans, who are pretty smart themselves, eventually realized these fuzzy scavengers sitting near the garbage pile were actually incredibly useful to have around. Imagine you are a primitive human sleeping in a dark, cold cave. A massive cave lion is silently sneaking up on your camp to eat you while you dream. Humans have terrible night vision and a pretty pathetic sense of smell. But those friendly wolves outside eating your trash? Their sense of smell is up to 100,000 times better than ours. Their hearing is so incredible they can hear a leaf drop in the snow from incredibly far away. Before the cave lion even gets close to the sleeping humans, the wolves smell it. They start barking and howling aggressively, warning the humans of the danger. The humans wake up in a panic, grab their spears, light their flaming torches, and scare the massive predator away. Suddenly, it was not a rivalry between two species anymore. It was an alliance, a beautiful, perfect transaction. We provided the free food, the garbage, and the warm fire. They provided the ultimate ancient home security system. But here is where the science gets truly crazy, and where the story takes a turn from history into strange biology. As these wolves became friendlier and hung around humans more, their actual physical bodies began to change. Biologists call this phenomenon domestication syndrome, and the mechanics behind it are absolutely fascinating. To understand this, we have to talk about a crazy science experiment that happened in the Soviet Union in the 1950s. A Russian scientist named Dmitry Belyaev wanted to prove how dogs evolved from wolves. But instead of wolves, he used wild silver foxes. He took hundreds of aggressive wild foxes and started breeding them. But he only made one simple rule. He only allowed the absolute friendliest foxes, the ones that did not bite his hand when he fed them, to have babies. After just a few generations of breeding only for friendliness, something impossible happened. The foxes did not just change their behavior, they completely changed the way they looked. They started growing floppy ears. Their tails started wagging when they saw humans. Their fur changed from solid colors to spotted cow patterns. They even started barking like dogs, something wild foxes never do. Why does this happen? Because when animals become tame and friendly, their adrenaline and cortisol levels completely drop. They are no longer constantly stressed out about surviving in the wild and fighting for their lives. This massive chemical shift in their brains actually changes the way their physical cells, called neural crest cells, grow while they are still in their mother's womb. Because of this drop in stress hormones, the ancient wolves going through domestication changed rapidly. Their ears got floppy instead of standing straight up like a wild predator on high alert. Their snouts got much shorter and rounder. Their sharp teeth got significantly smaller. Their actual brain size shrank by about 20%, because they did not need to calculate complex hunting strategies or worry about survival anymore. The humans were doing all the hard thinking for them. They literally started looking like permanent puppies, keeping their cute baby features for their entire adult lives. Scientists call this neoteny, the retention of juvenile traits. But the physical changes were not just about looking cute and harmless. They also changed the entire way they communicated with the world. Wild wolves very rarely bark. They howl to communicate with their pack over long distances through the forest. But barking is mostly just a temporary thing that only tiny wolf puppies do when they are playing. But domestic dogs bark constantly. Why? Because they quickly learned that barking is the absolute best, most annoying, and most effective way to get a human being to pay attention to them. They literally evolved a brand new vocal language just to talk to us. However, all of this is nothing compared to the absolute ultimate weapon that dogs developed to conquer the human heart. It is the greatest psychological trick in the animal kingdom, and it has to do with their eyes. Scientists recently dissected the facial structure of wolves and dogs, and they discovered something that will blow your mind. Modern domestic dogs have a very specific, specialized muscle located right above their eyes. The scientific medical name for it is the levator anguli oculi medialis. Do not worry about remembering the Latin name, just know what it does. Wild wolves do not have this muscle at all. Their faces are stiff. Dogs evolved this specific facial muscle over thousands of years for one single, highly manipulative reason. How did bloodthirsty wolves become our pets to control human emotions? This tiny little muscle allows them to raise their inner eyebrows independently. It makes their eyes look bigger, rounder, and much sadder. It creates what every human on Earth universally recognizes as the puppy dog eyes. When a dog gives you that sad, big-eyed, innocent look, it completely hacks your brain chemistry. It triggers a deep, ancient maternal instinct inside of the human mind. We literally cannot help but feel affection and pity. When humans and dogs make deep eye contact, and the dog raises those eyebrows, both the human brain and the dog brain release a massive dose of a chemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin is not just any chemical. It is the exact same powerful love hormone that a human mother naturally releases when she stares into the eyes of her newborn baby. It is the chemical responsible for bonding, trust, and deep emotional attachment. Let me repeat that so you fully understand the gravity of it. Dogs chemically hacked our biology. Over thousands of years, they figured out how to hijack our brain chemistry, to make us love them like they are our own biological human children. That is exactly why you feel the uncontrollable urge to give them a piece of your expensive steak. When they stare at you under the dinner table, they are essentially emotional parasites, but they are the only parasite that pays us back with cuddles and protection. As time moved forward, human society evolved dramatically, and our brilliant fuzzy companions evolved right alongside us. Around 10 to 12,000 years ago, humans went through the agricultural revolution. We stopped wandering around as nomads hunting mammoths, and we started building permanent villages, planting wheat, and raising fences full of sheep, goats, and cows. Suddenly, humans did not just need ancient home alarm systems anymore. We needed actual, hardworking employees to help run our ancient businesses. This is the exact moment in history where humans stopped letting nature take its course, and we took total control of dog evolution. We realized that dogs were genetically like clay. We could mold their shapes and sizes by carefully choosing which ones had babies together. We started selectively breeding them for very specific, incredibly difficult jobs. Did you live in the freezing mountains and need a massive, fearless beast to protect your valuable flock of sheep from wild mountain lions and remaining wolf packs? Humans took the biggest, strongest, most aggressive guard dogs they had and bred them together. After a few generations, boom, you have giant, muscular guardian breeds, like the Anatolian Shepherd, the Mastiff, and the Kangal. Dogs so big and strong, they can fight off a bear. Did you need a highly intelligent, fast, and relentlessly energetic animal to control and herd hundreds of sheep across a massive green valley without actually biting them? We bred the smartest, most obedient dogs together. Welcome to the world, Border Collies and Australian Shepherds. These dogs are so smart they practically do trigonometry in their heads, while running at top speed to calculate exactly how to move a flock of sheep into a tiny pen. Did you have a massive problem with rats and mice eating all the valuable grain stored in your barn? Humans needed something small, feisty, aggressive, and fast that could crawl into tiny, dark holes and terminate rodents. Say hello to the entire family of terriers. There was even a dog bred specifically to work in kitchens. Have you ever heard of the turnspit dog? In medieval Britain, cooking meat over a fire required someone to constantly turn a heavy iron spit so the meat cooked evenly. It was an awful, hot, tiring job usually given to the lowest servants. So they bred a specific dog with a long body and short crooked legs. They put this dog inside a wooden wheel mounted on the wall, exactly like a giant hamster wheel. The dog would run inside the wheel for hours, which was attached to a chain that turned the roasting meat over the fire. These dogs were the literal engine of the ancient kitchen. When humans finally invented automated roasting spits and electricity, the turnspit dog lost its job and completely went extinct. Dogs even went so far as to change their internal digestive systems, just to fit into human society better. Wild wolves are pure carnivores. Their bodies are designed to process raw meat and bone, nothing else. But when humans started farming, our diets changed. We ate a lot of bread, potatoes, grains, and vegetables. Since dogs were eating our leftover scraps, they had to adapt or starve. Over thousands of years, domestic dogs evolved a specific genetic mutation that creates the enzyme amylase, allowing them to perfectly digest carbohydrates and starches. They biologically evolved to be able to eat our leftover pizza crusts and sandwich bread. That is true dedication to the alliance. For thousands and thousands of years, dogs were highly respected, hardworking members of human society. They were the engine of ancient logistics, pulling heavy sleds across the frozen Arctic snow. Think of the famous Siberian Huskies who transported life-saving medicine across Alaska in a blizzard. Dogs ran onto terrifying battlefields alongside Roman soldiers, wearing actual custom-made leather armor and spiked collars, to attack enemy cavalry. They hunted wild boars for medieval kings. They were our absolute best co-workers, helping us conquer a wild and dangerous planet. But then, something very strange and slightly ridiculous happened. The Victorian era arrived in the 1800s. During this time, the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Machines started doing a lot of the heavy lifting. People, especially rich aristocrats and royalty in Europe, suddenly had a whole lot of free time and a ridiculous amount of money. Because human life was suddenly much easier and safer, dogs were no longer strictly needed just for survival, hunting, or farm work. Instead, they transitioned into something completely different. They became luxury items. They became status symbols and fashion statements. Humans stopped breeding dogs based on how fast they could run or how well they could herd sheep. Instead, humans started breeding dogs purely for how they looked. We essentially invented eugenics for pets. This is when the concept of the formal dog show was invented, and humans became obsessed with creating bizarre new shapes and sizes. This short era is when we created the massive, and sometimes genetically disastrous variety of purebred dogs we see today. We molded their genetics like silly putty just to entertain ourselves. We decided we wanted dogs with incredibly long, tube-like bodies and tiny little stubby legs to hunt badgers deep underground, so we aggressively bred the dachshund, universally known today as the wiener dog. We decided we wanted dogs with completely squished-in faces, because we thought they looked like funny, angry human babies, so we popularized the French bulldog and the pug. Keep in mind, the pug was a breed that originally sat lazily in the laps of ancient Chinese emperors, entirely bred just to keep the emperor's hands warm in the winter. We made dogs as massive as small horses, like the Great Dane, bred originally to hunt wild boar, but now mostly just taking up entire couches. And we made dogs so unbelievably tiny, they could fit inside a teacup or a purse like the Chihuahua. In just a couple of 100 years of extreme Victorian breeding, humans created more physical variety in a single species of dog than nature managed to create in millions of years of normal, natural evolution. We played God with their DNA just because we thought it looked cute. And that long, crazy, twisting journey brings us exactly to where we are today. Right now, as you are watching this, there are roughly 900 million domestic dogs living happily on planet Earth. Think about how absolutely incredible that is from a purely evolutionary and biological standpoint. Take a moment to look at the contrast. Wild wolves, their terrifying, independent, and proud ancestors, have been hunted relentlessly, their forests chopped down, and their numbers pushed to the absolute brink of extinction. In many parts of the world, wolves are completely gone. Meanwhile, the domestic dog, the wolf that decided to eat trash and wag its tail, has completely conquered the modern world. They live in almost every single country, on every single continent, and sleep in millions of our homes. They have completely trained the human race to build expensive heated houses for them, buy them squeaky toys, take them to expensive specialized doctors, and pick up their waste in little plastic bags on a daily basis. From a purely biological perspective, becoming man's best friend was the smartest, most brilliant survival strategy any animal has ever pulled off in the entire history of the universe. They traded their absolute freedom for absolute security, and they won the evolutionary lottery. And it is all because, tens of thousands of years ago, a few brave, slightly lazy wolves looked at a campfire in the freezing snow, and decided that sitting in the warmth with a bunch of loud, naked, weird-looking apes was not such a bad idea after all. We offered them a warm place to sleep, a steady supply of food, and protection from the harsh elements. In return, they gave us their absolute, unquestioning loyalty. They guard our homes from danger while we sleep. They act as the eyes for people who are blind, guiding them safely through busy city streets. They use their incredible, ancient noses to sniff out diseases like cancer hidden deep inside the human body, or to find survivors trapped under collapsed buildings after an earthquake. They jump out of helicopters with military special forces, and perhaps most importantly of all, they provide us with pure, unconditional love, and endless entertainment in a modern world that can often feel very stressful and difficult. The ancient alliance between humans and dogs is undoubtedly the most successful interspecies partnership in the history of the natural world. It is entirely possible, and many scientists agree, that without dogs guarding our primitive camps, helping us hunt when we were starving, and protecting our vital livestock from predators, human civilization might not even exist as we know it today. We did not conquer this planet alone. We built the modern world together, side by side with a wolf. So, the very next time your goofy, clumsy dog is fast asleep on your expensive living room couch, snoring incredibly loudly with its tongue hanging out and its legs twitching as it chases dream rabbits, take a really good, long look at it. Remember the incredible journey written into its DNA. You are not just looking at a pet. You are looking at a fierce Ice Age survivor. You are looking at a brilliant creature that outsmarted the brutal, unforgiving laws of evolution, completely transformed its own physical body, and literally hacked the chemical pathways of the human brain, all just to become your absolute best friend. If you enjoyed this deep dive journey back in time, and if you look at your dog a little bit differently now, make sure to hit that like button to support the channel. Leave a comment down below telling me what kind of dog you have, or what your favorite weird breed is. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more crazy, mind-blowing answers to the wild history of our incredible world. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.